Hey guys, it's Miss Jill. I have a book for the older kids today. I have Artemis Fowl by Owen Colfer, and we were reading this today with permission from Scholastic. So obviously this is a chapter book. I can't read the whole book in one go. So what we're going to do is we're going to read as much as we can of the first chapter, and we might have to make a part 2 of chapter 1. But we'll get started. Prologue. How does one describe Artemis Fowl? Various psychiatrists have tried and failed. The main problem is Artemis's own intelligence. He bamboozles every test thrown at him. He has puzzled the greatest medical minds and sent many of them gibbering to their own hospitals. There is no doubt that Artemis is a child prodigy. But why does someone of such brilliance dedicate himself to criminal activities? This is the question that can be answered by only one person, and he delights in not talking. Perhaps the best way to create an accurate picture of Artemis is to tell the by now famous account of his first villainous venture. I have put together this report from first-hand interviews with the victims, and as the tale unfolds, you will realize that this was not easy. The story begins several years ago, at the dawn of the 21st century. Artemis Fowl had devised a plan to restore his family's fortune. A plan that could topple civilizations and plunge the planet into a cross-species war. He was 12 years old at the time. Chapter 1. The book. Ho Chi Minh City in the summer, sweltering by anyone's standards. Needless to say, Artemis Fowl would not have been willing to put up with such discomfort if something extremely important had not been at stake. Important to the plan. Sun did not suit Artemis. He did not look well in it. Long hours indoors in front of a computer screen had bleached the glow from his skin. He was white as a vampire and almost as testy in the light of day. "I hope this isn't another wild goose chase, Butler," he said, his voice soft and clipped, especially after Cairo. It was a gentle rebuke. They had traveled to Egypt on the word of Butler's informant. "No, sir. I'm certain this time. Wen is a good man." Droned Artemis, unconvinced. Passers-by would have been amazed to hear the large Eurasian man refer to the boy as sir. This was, after all, the 3rd millennium. But this was no ordinary relationship, and these were no ordinary tourists. They were sitting outside a curbside cafe on Don Kai Street, watching the local teenagers circle the square in mopeds. Wen was late, and the pathetic patch of shade provided by the umbrella was doing little to improve Artemis's mood. But this was just his daily pessimism. Beneath the sulk was a spark of hope. Could this trip actually yield results? Would they finally find the book? It was too much to hope for. A waiter scurried to their table. "More tea, sirs?" he asked, head bobbing furiously. Artemis sighed. "Spare me the theatrics and sit down." The waiter turned instinctively to Butler, who was, after all, the adult. "But, sir, I am the waiter." Artemis tapped the table for attention. "You are wearing handmade loafers, a silk shirt, and 3 gold signet rings. Your English has a tinge of Oxford about it, and your nails have the softest sheen of the recently manicured. You are not a waiter. You are our contact, Wen Zhao, and you have adopted this pathetic disguise to discreetly check for weaponry." Wen's shoulders sagged. "It is true. Amazing." "Hardly. A ragged apron does not a waiter make." Wen sat, pouring some mint tea into a tiny china cup. "Let me fill you in on the weapon status," continued Artemis. "I am unarmed, but Butler here, my butler, has a Sig Sauer in a shoulder holster, 2 Shrike throwing knives in his boots, a Derringer 2-shot up his sleeve, a garrote wire in his watch, and 3 stun grenades concealed in various pockets." "Anything else, Butler?" "The Kosh, sir. Oh, yes, a good old ball-bearing Kosh stuffed down his shirt." No. Wen brought the cup, trembling to his lips. "Don't be alarmed, Mr. Jun." Artemis smiled. "The weapons will not be used on you." Wen didn't seem reassured. "No," continued Artemis, Butler could kill you 100 different ways without the use of his weapons, though I'm sure one would be quite sufficient. Wen was by now thoroughly spooked. Artemis generally had that effect on people. A pale adolescent speaking with the authority and vocabulary of a powerful adult? Wen had heard the name Fowl before. Who hadn't in the international underworld? But he'd assumed he'd been dealing with Artemis Sr., not this boy. Though the word boy hardly seemed to do this gaunt individual justice. And the giant Butler? It was obvious that he could snap a man's backbone like a twig with those mammoth hands. Wen was starting to think that no amount of money was worth another minute in this strange company. "And now to business," said Artemis, placing a micro recorder on the table. "You answered our web advertisement." Wen nodded, suddenly praying that his information was accurate. "Yes, Master Fowl. What you're looking for, I know where it is." "Really? And I'm supposed to take your word for this? You could be walking me straight into an ambush. My family is not without enemies." Butler snatched a mosquito out of the air beside his employer's ear. "No, no," said Wen, reaching for his wallet. "Here, look." Artemis studied the Polaroid. He willed his heart to maintain a calm beat. It seemed promising, but anything could be faked these days with a PC and a flatbed scanner. The picture showed a hand reaching from layered shadows. A molted green hand. He murmured. "Explain." "This woman, she's a healer near To-Do Street. She works in exchange for rice wine. All the time. Drunk." Artemis nodded. It made sense. The drinking. One of the few consistent facts his research had unearthed. He stood, pulling the creases from his white polo shirt. "Very well. Lead on, Mr. Jin." Wen wiped the sweat from his stringy mustache. "Information only. That was the agreement. I don't want any curses on my head." Butler expertly gripped the informant behind the neck. "I'm sorry, Mr. Jin, but the time when you had a choice in matters is long past." Butler steered the protesting Vietnamese man to the rented four-wheel drive that was hardly necessary on the flat streets of Ho Chi Minh City, or Saigon as the locals still call it. But Artemis preferred to be as insulated from civilians as possible. The Jeep inched forward at a painfully slow rate, made all the more excruciating by the anticipation building in Artemis' chest. He could suppress it no longer. Could they be at last at the end of their quest? After 6 false alarms across 3 continents, could this wine-sodden healer be the gold at the end of the rainbow? Artemis almost chuckled. Gold at the end of the rainbow. He'd made a joke. Now there's something that didn't happen every day. The mopeds parted like fish in a giant show. There seemed to be no end to the crowds. Even the alleyways were full to bursting with vendors and hagglers. Cooks dropped fish heads into walks of hissing oil, and urchins threaded their ways underfoot searching for unguarded valuables. Others sat in the shade, wearing out their thumbs on Game Boys. Wen was sweating right through his khaki top. It wasn't the humidity. He was used to that. It was this whole curse situation. He should have known better than to mix magic and crime. He made a silent promise that if he got out of this, he would change his ways. No more answering shady internet requests, and certainly no more consorting with the sons of European crime lords. The Jeep could only go so far. Eventually the side streets grew too narrow for the four-wheel drive. Artemis turned to Wen. "It seems we must proceed on foot, Mr. Jin. Run if you like, but expect sharp and fatal pain between your shoulder blades." Wen glanced into Butler's eyes. They were a deep blue, almost black. There was no mercy in those eyes. "Don't worry," he said. "I won't run." They climbed down from the vehicle. 1,000 suspicious eyes followed their progress along the steaming alley, and an unfortunate pickpocket attempted to steal Butler's wallet. The manservant broke the man's fingers without looking down. They were given a wide berth after that. The alley narrowed to a rutted lane. Sewage and drain pipes fed directly into the muddy surface. Cripples and beggars handed out rice mat islands. Most of the residents in this land had nothing to spare with the exception of 3. "Well," demanded Artemis, "where is she?" And that's where we're going to stop for now, guys. So hopefully you guys will tune in later so I can read you the next part of Chapter 1, the book from Artemis Fowl by Owen Colfer, brought to us with permission from Scholastic. All right, guys, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you later. Bye.